Soje, and I will be taking you on a journey this afternoon, and that journey is titled Introduction to Learning and Development. It's my pleasure to actually lead this session with you. And what is our key takeaway? What is our learning objective? Please, slide, please. Let's really look at our learning objective. What will you be learning? What will you gain at the end of this session? It's expected that at the end of this session, participants should be able to understand what L&D is and what L&D is not. It should be able to understand the framework for creating an L&D strategy. Participants should be able to understand and identify the steps to implementing an L&D strategy. You should also be able to have a takeaway in understanding the skills required for L&D professionals. Also, we'll be looking at understanding the 70-20-10 learning model, what it's about and how you can implement them, how to evaluate learning and development effectiveness within the organization, some of the challenges to expect and how to navigate them. Then we draw a conclusion there and probably call it a day. Also, we're going to be able to run through this, but I would advise that you take the notes you can take as fast as you can and take what is yours and ensure to make do with it, because it's important that you don't just become hearers only, but doers and applying what is being learned. It's in the application that a lot of these skills are actually gotten and driven. Thank you. Slide up, please. So what is L&D, or what L&D is not? Let's start. A wise man once said that to know what the thing is, it's important to know what it is not. So for most of us who are just new into the L&D space, it's important to first of all know what L&D is not. Let us look at this closely. Just ask yourself, what is not L&D? What L&D is not? Please go back, please. It's still on what L&D is not. I don't know, 1, 2 persons out there, can you tell me what L&D is not? What L&D is not? Hello, can you hear me? In your opinion, in your thinking, what is not L&D? There are many definitions for L&D, many concepts around L&D. We all know what L&D, but what is it that is not L&D? What is not L&D? Please, if you have, okay, good one, Rajumoke, good one. L&D is not just training. Good one. Good one. L&D is not just training. Thank you. Gift is saying L&D is not just performance management. Excellent. Great one. Great concept. L&D is not just performance management. That's right. Eddie, all that. We have seen L&D is not just training. L&D is not just performance management. And to add to that list, I would like to say L&D is not technology that drives learning. L&D is not facilitation. L&D is not all of these things. It's not all of these things. So thank you very much, Olajumoke, for that input. Thank you very much, Gift, for that input. You really understand what L&D is not. So that takes us to what is L&D? What is L and D. What is L and D? Now, can I have two people share with me what your opinion is? What do you think L and D is? What is L and D? What is L and D in your opinion? From your experience, what is L and D? Yes, 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 yes. In your opinion, what is L and D? Can you hear me? What is L and D in your opinion? It's important we engage, because that is the essence of this conversation. It's important we engage. Okay, knowledge study. It is a process of acquiring and improving knowledge. Excellent. Great one. Great one. I think I like that. I like that. It's a broad aspect of HR that covers training, coaching, and mentoring. Interesting. Interesting. That's fine. A systematic process through which organizations equip its employees with required knowledge and competencies, both for current and future needs. Exactly. Interesting. Interesting. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a good one. That's a good one. I summarize everything you said here to say L&D is a core HR function that provides employees with the skills they need to succeed. The skills they need to succeed. It is a dual benefit tool, nurturing the individual development while simultaneously improving the business performance. So with this, you can see that there are two aspects to L&D. One is the individual employee. The other is business performance. You need to understand it very clearly. The business performance side of L&D is very critical, or else every other thing around the individual development is going to be a mirage. The individual development must be aligned to drive and enable the business performance, as it were. So that is why L&D is so unique in its entire context. Suffice it to mean that L&D is business-centered. That means it puts the business at the core. L&D is individual employee-centered. It puts the individual employee at the core. L&D is also process and business enabler. So L&D looks at the process. It enables the process. It looks at the business. It supports and enables the business for performance. And having said that, you can now see the broad definition of L&D in our conversation. And just a quick one, you can just drop me a chat and let me know what is the critical point of the definition I've given as per L&D. The critical point, just let me know. And also feel free to ask me a question, drop your questions, ask me your question, jump on the mic, ask me your questions, so that I can also attend to them as we run. Right. Now that we have seen what L&D is, let's look at why L&D. Why L&D? Why? The why of L&D. Often the time why speaks to purpose, the reason of being, the why of business, the why of life, the why and why and why. So it's important to start with the why, understanding why it exists, understanding the purpose of L&D. L&D is one of the core areas of the human resource management as stated in our definition. It's a systematic process to enhance an employer's skill as stated. However, L&D, as part of its process in developing skills, knowledge, and competency, resulting to better performance in a work setting, it looks at its reason from the following point. Acquisition of knowledge, skills, attitude, and competencies. Because the organizations have come to a point where it can no longer go forward without its knowledge power. And L&D is that force that is going to drive that. An organization that is not knowledgeable, that is not knowledge-centered, will not meet the competition in the marketplace. It will soon fizzle out. So L&D helps the business to stay informed, help the business to stay agile as per knowledge and information, skills, and as per attitude. L&D is that center that holds that knowledge base, skill base, and competency base of the organization. So the why of L&D is seen in the training, upskilling, development, coaching, mentoring of the individual employee, and also improving the business processes, also improving the business strategy, also improving all the other business metrics to ensure that this business survive in the marketplace, especially in the VUCA environment where businesses compete heavily and struggle to survive. This is the core of L&D. This is why L&D exists. Having looked at why L&D exists, next slide, please. Let's look at the framework for L&D strategy. So strategies don't just appear from the space. There are framework that helps us design the strategy. Do not also forget that the L&D strategy is linked to the overall HR strategy. And on the other side, it's also linked to the overall business strategy. So these two factors come to play. As part of its factor, the L&D is tented toward the HR strategy, and on the other end, tented toward the overall business strategy. Having said that, it's important to know that the entire L&D framework and strategy is often a time designed as an enabler of the overall business objective. So that means you have to first of all understand the business. You have to understand the workings of the business, why the business exists, how it makes money, its operation, etc. You have to understand it as professionals. You have to also understand where the leadership of the business is going in respect to strategic goals and objectives. Then you begin to align and show to the business how the L&D function can support that business and support the goal and support the objective as an enabler. So one of the critical One of the critical framework to look at here is, first, we look at self-directed learning as a framework, as one of the framework. We'll look at the techniques as a framework. We look at the approach, usually often the time a blended approach as a framework. Then we look at the strategy, and we look at the performance environmental solution, as it were. Please note this. Please note this. A learning and development strategy sets out the workforce capabilities. They set it out. They identify them in line with the strategic business objective. So your L&D capability framework or your total organization capabilities framework must be aligned with the goals of the business. Let's say the business objective is to achieve X, Y, Z amount figures, let's say, is to hit ₦1 billion profit at the end of the year. L&D is going to be asking, how can the sales team drive the entire market to achieve this goal? Having seen the goal of ₦1 billion FY broken down into quarters, as it were. Now, the function or the role of L&D comes in looking at the strength, the competencies, the skill set of the workforce within the sales and marketing department. What did they know as at last year? What did it produce? What should they know this year to enable them hit ₦1 billion target? What skills should they have? If they have XYZ skills, should they upskill? Looking at the individual development, as it were. Also, how will this learning take place? Coaching, mentoring, in the class, or peer group learning? All of this methodology will come to play in the strategy. You also see a blend in the strategy, a blend in the methodology. So two methods can be blended together to achieve its purpose. This framework will also explain to you where or situations where classroom learning is actually a recommendation, and among all of the various methods that will be recommended in the framework. All of this framework rises and falls on the strategy, overall business strategy. I've said that, and that cannot be overemphasized. Also, the L&D professional in his strategy must develop the performance framework. What will success look like in the end after doing all of these? What will success mean in the end? So these capabilities are looked at, skills, competencies, the organization will need to actually drive that objective in the sales department. Don't forget that that is for sales. Using that as a case study, you could have that for production. If you are practically in manufacturing, you could have that around the process, the process. If you are if you are practically in the logistic department, the various chain and processes within which all of these activities are done. So you can look at the process and analyze that, as it were, so that you can have a working framework to drive whatever it is the goal is. And you also need to understand how they can be developed to ensure a sustainable, successful business. All of this strategy, all of the framework will be gearing toward enabling the business achieve its objective. That is when L&D becomes not just a cost center, but a value center. Are we together? It's like, I hope I hope we are still together. If you are there and you are still listening to me and we are together and we are learning, can I just see you identify or share some of your experience with me? Yes. If you've had the privilege to work on the framework, if you've the verge of working on the framework, L&D strategy as it were, if you probably have experienced anything around this, I would like you to share your thoughts around this so that we can have a conversation and it's not like a monologue in and out. So what's your take? What's probably you have a challenge around this too. We can have that conversation. We can have that conversation. So in the end,